Hi guys, welcome to Twin Perspective. I'm Joe, and tonight I'm going to be reviewing and recapping The Haunting of Hill House, the series on Netflix, Season 1. This will be a brief, spoiler-free review, and when I decide to get into spoilers and be a little more detailed, I will give you the heads up. Before I get started, I want to let you know a little bit about me. I'm a regular guy, an average Joe. So those of you who are average, regular people who don't expect a lot out of TV and movies and stuff like that, you might think I'm a little pompous because I'm very opinionated. I have what I like, what I expect, and that's why I like to do reviews. And those of you who are highly educated in the arts might think I'm a simpleton because I'm not going to get too detailed about anything. It's just if I see something and I want to do a review about it, good or bad, I'm going to let it come out. Now, my rating system, 0 to 10, and a 5 out of 10 would be something that is average. That is something that I give, that's the rating I give to just about everything. 5 out of 10, what they'll have in common is anything 5 or over, I will watch again. There is a rewatchability to it, so 5 out of 10 ain't bad. You know, it's could have been better, but it's not that bad. So that's where I'm at. Okay, The Haunting of Hill House. This was based on a book by Shirley Jackson, and I haven't read the novel, so I don't know how similar this is to it, how developed the characters are, how similar everything is. But this version on Netflix was done by Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan has done a ton of TV, and his feature films include Absentia, Oculus, Hush, Before I Wake, Ouija, Origin of Evil, and Gerald's Game. So, this series stars Carla Gugino as Olivia, Henry Thomas and Timothy Hutton play Hugh, Michael Huisman plays Stephen, Elizabeth Reeser plays Shirley, Oliver Jackson Cohen as Luke, Kate Siegel as Theodora, Victoria Pedretti as Nell, and it also features Annabeth Gish as Mrs. Dudley, Robert Longstreet as Mr. Dudley, and for all you Twin Peaks fans out there, Russ Tamblyn appears in one episode as Dr. Montague. So here's my spoiler-free breakdown. I thought the direction was good. What I appreciated about it was there was a lot of genuinely creepy things. A lot of it done by the director. Nothing too outlandish, nothing too in your face, nothing too jump scare. Nothing too cheap like that, but at the same time, he did lean towards the old classic ideas of creepiness and being scary. So there may be people who watch it that thinks it's very scary, and there are some people that watch it and think that he should have done more. So there's that fine line there, and what I appreciated about it was it was as the series went along, and you spent more and more time in it, then it did start to get genuinely creepy. So that's something, a plus I've got to give to it, and I got to give most of the credit to the director for that. The characters were really fleshed out. All of them had their problems, and I think we spent enough time with all of them to understand those problems, how they were trying to deal with those problems, and ultimately what they needed to do to solve those problems in the end. The issue I had is that not very many of the characters were likable. And I do have an issue with sympathizing with someone who has problems and continues to do the same negative things over and over and over again despite help that's trying to be given. Now, I'm being general here, but that's a flaw of mine. I am very empathetic, but at the same time, and sympathetic, but at the same time, when I say I draw the line and you cross that line, that's it. I'm done with you. I got to draw the line somewhere. So when you focus on the problems of these people and they struggle with it, and it's a constant thing, it gets to be a point where, do I want to hang out with this person anymore or not? And that was the problem I had with half of the characters. I didn't want to hang out with half of them. There were only a couple that I really liked. Theo being one of them. And it was easy for me to understand the plight she was going through and the coping mechanisms that she was, doing. So there were others that had issues that I could understand, and I did not agree with the way they were going about things. And ultimately, as the story unfolds, there's some cleverness to the direction. A lot of the times it kind of falls flat for me at times. Sometimes it was a little too confusing trying to keep up with where we were, whether we were in the present or the past. Once you get to know the characters good enough and you start to recognize them, and then that becomes easy. But for a little while, it was hard to follow. I think the first couple of episodes were actually the weakest by far. And as the series progressed, they got pretty good. I think one of my personal favorites is probably part 3, episode 3, which focused on Theo. The first 5 episodes really focus on each character, main character, the children. And then the last 5 are putting the pieces together till you get to the ending, which is the ultimate ending, and where the story needed to go. And so I got to give it credit for that as well. The production design was good. The music was okay, not a lot of it, but there were use of songs throughout that really annoyed me. And I'm not a fan of country music, so there were a couple episodes where these ballads would kick in with the singers singing. It felt like an episode of This Is Us. And there were also times throughout the series when it felt more like a soap opera than a horror movie. But I gotta say that they did find a plethora of a myriad of haunting stories to tell, and different ways in which people can be creeped out and haunted, personally, and they did exhibit that to us. So any haunting movie you've ever seen, you can probably find that particular type of haunting in this show. So they did cover their bases, and in that aspect, it was very original. Like I said, I didn't read the book, so I'm not sure if Shirley Jackson gave us that or if Mike Flanagan gave us that. But all in all, I think it was well done. It is very overrated based on what I've heard about the series. I watched the first 2 episodes and I checked out, actually, and I wasn't going to watch anymore. And then someone at work told me I should really take it a little further because it gets better and better. And that piqued my interest, so I watched the next 2 episodes, and it was slightly better. And so I was able to carry on after that. And, about the time you get to part 6, you're kind of hooked, and you really want to see where it's going to go, how it's going to end. So overall, I give it a 6 out of 10. Very well made compared to haunting type television shows and film, this is a good effort. Comparatively speaking, pretty good effort. All right, that's where I'm going to leave it for the spoiler-free edition. Please subscribe to Rose and Bill 10 for those of you who are checking out, and for those of you who are hanging out. Let me get into why this thing bothered me, okay? Because it did bother me. The first 2 episodes were just painful for me. Okay, the first one was about Stephen. He's the oldest son. He's writing horror books, but he doesn't believe in ghosts. And this is the deal. Half of these kids refuse to even acknowledge anything. Well, none of them acknowledge it, really, but some of them just flat out deny that there are even ghosts. And when you get in Hill House, you know immediately that it's haunted. You know, there's the aspect of whether there's a psychological mental illness passed on from the mother to the children. And so you're thinking, okay, maybe these kids are just all hallucinating, but I seriously doubt it. I mean, the show's called The Haunting of Hill House. I'm hoping that there's a haunting going on. And if it's done well enough and it's all psychological, oh well. But there is that question at the end of okay, did the mom just lose it or not? And that was kind of like the only reason I was watching it. It was just like, I need to find out. Did she get possessed? Did a ghost make her do something? And it is implied that the ghost will force you to do things, make you hallucinate. And it is also implied that they're all batshit crazy. So I wasn't sure how to feel about that aspect of it. Now, Stephen was the worst of them all because he was writing these books about the actual incidents the family went through at the house, except he was getting all of it wrong. And then from the outward appearance, it's like he didn't believe in ghosts, which is kind of crazy for somebody that's writing books about it. The next episode was about Shirley, and that kid was my least favorite. Shirley was my least favorite character of the whole thing. I mean, I hated how they were trying to get the children to go to the casket, to view an open casket at a funeral. That's just completely opposite of who I am and what I would expect from a child. There are certain religious things you want to adhere to. You insist on putting the body in the ground, fine. You insist on having a open casket, okay, fine. But you insist on my child being forced to go up there and look at that dead person? No, screw you. I've been to plenty of funerals that had the exact opposite effect of what they were trying to sell. I walked up to the casket and I didn't see a living, breathing person anymore. I saw a dead person. And that is how I took it when I saw it, and never wanted to look at an open casket body again. I would rather remember them the way they were. And there's several psychological or psychiatrists in this show. You know, they're giving their diagnosis. You know, they're giving their professional opinion and telling these children that it would be better for them if they went and looked at the body. You don't want to remember grandma when she had cancer. You want to remember her. No, well, maybe he remembers her before she had the cancer, which is, any of it might be better than just looking at her laying there dead. Okay. And everybody that had a ghost story to tell, they were really interesting stories, but nobody was really listening. And a lot of this happened in the first 2 episodes. It was children. And, you know, I guess Shirley was a funeral home chick who worked on the bodies. So, you know, she had her issues with how she dealt with death. A lot of people probably couldn't do that. And I guess I was supposed to get something out of this, but I didn't. I just didn't like Shirley, and I didn't like Stephen. The next episode was about Theo, and I liked Theo. Theo was a sensitive, and when she touched things, she could sense everything associated with it. The person laid there or handled the object, and if the person suffered, then she'd get the pain, and she was a seer. So I sympathized with her and understood why she might have been kind of reckless and a little out of touch. But overall, she seemed kind, and she didn't seem to want to really hurt anybody. Every time she was rude, she managed to apologize. That was something else I liked about her. But ultimately in the series, they made her do something which made me not like her too. It's almost as if nobody really redeemed themselves for me as a character. If I liked them, they just did something that pissed me off. And if I didn't like them, they didn't do anything to redeem themselves. They actually made things worse. So episode 4 was about Luke. Luke was one of the twins. Luke and Nell are the twins. And Luke is the drug addict. He is addicted, and the whole time you're getting to know him, he's lying to people and stealing from people and making promises to people that he doesn't intend on keeping, and he becomes a nuisance and nobody trusts him anymore. Then we flip to the present where, the immediate present, where he's actually been sober for 90 days and nobody believes him. And they're not giving him a chance. So even if you like the guy, which I didn't, even if you like him, you're suffering because nobody's giving him a chance. And it's just the way it is. And so I guess, that's probably something they're trying to get you to give these people another chance. And how many times is a drug addict going to rob you before you tell them to stay out of your house? And how many times are they going to say they're sober and then end up falling off the wagon again before you actually believe when they're sober? And at the end of the show, we see that he's been 2 years clean and the whole family's there. And I believe after maybe 2 years of being sober, would you still trust him to go in your house? Would you? At 20 years, I'm not sure. Because once you're addicted to a substance like heroin, you're addicted for life. And if you're strong enough, you can get off of it. And you need help to get off of it. And once you're off of it, you probably need help staying away from it. And there's a lot of personal responsibility that comes with that. And you need all the help you can get from the beginning to the end. And it's tough. So kudos to the family for sticking with him after all this. But I mean, it was a pain in the ass to watch it. Believe me, that was not pretty. And part 5 was about Nell, the twin sister. And Nell, I liked, but they put so much on Nell that it became miserable. And, I guess that's the point of the show, but, I really want characters to be endearing to me in some way. That's the biggest problem I have with horror movies. If you're going to give me a bunch of characters that I don't like and are not invested in, then kill them off as quick as possible, please. So, Nell, during her episode, quit taking her medicine, and she got progressively more and more irritating, and I didn't feel sympathy for her anymore. I really didn't. And I understand sleep paralysis. I've had it a few times in my life, my brother too. And it's awful. But I couldn't stand watching the girl go through it. I couldn't sympathize with it. I was more irritated with the it was too much. It was just too much. And so now episode 5, Nell's episode is probably the one I dislike the most. That one and the one about Shirley. And the one about Steven wasn't great. Like I said, the first 2 episodes I checked out. I wasn't going to watch it again. My friend said, keep watching it. I watched 3 and 4. I went back and said, 3 and 4 were better than 1 and 2 collectively. And he told me part 5 was the best. After part 5, you get hooked. And I watched part 5, and I was like, come on, please don't tell me this is the best. Part 6 was called Two Storms, and that was when the father finally arrives, and everyone's there at the funeral home with the dead person in exhibits, but nobody else is there but the family. And when you go to the past, the family was dealing with a freak storm that at one point shut all the lights off. And I respected this episode because there were a lot of one-shot takes. The majority of it was. And I'm talking about extended one-shot take, like 5 minutes. I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is the same shot they've been filming for the last 5-6 minutes. So kudos to everybody that was involved. I don't know if they expected it to edit at any point, but there were edits at different points. And of course, you're going back to the past, back to the present. But they did do extended one-shot takes for both the past and the present, and I respect it. But at the same time, it's almost as if you're if you do fall a little short at any point, and there's no chance to make it better. And so hats off to them. It was like episode 6 was kind of like watching a play on stage. But ultimately, all of the actors do an okay job, but there are times when, for some reason, I'm not there, and it may have a lot to do with the characters as well. One scene in particular during Two Storms, when Steve started confronting his dad and kind of blaming his dad, and he's raising his voice and he's almost out of control, and the other kids have to tell him to chill out. And then eventually it spills over to another family member who starts to get irritated, and then Steve's the one that tries to calm her down. And it didn't feel right. It's like Steve was the one that was flying off the handle. At this point, a lot of them have been drinking, and you kind of expect if they're going off, they're just going to stay off. And it just didn't feel right that Stephen would be the one out of line. And within 30 seconds, he's the one trying to calm people down. Part 7, Eulogy. That was okay. Part 8, Witness Marks. Again, okay. Part 9, Screaming Meanies. That one was okay. And part 10, Silence Lay Steadily. I appreciate what they were saying in the end. There was a healing process they all needed to go through. There were sacrifices. And you did get a lot of evidence to draw your own conclusion, be comfortable with it. The Dudleys wanting to stay there, the original people that own the house, and the crazy people, ghosts, and the chick was making everyone do stuff and thinking things and yada yada. And then the dad decides to stay. He killed himself there or whatever. And however you want to go with it, they give you a lot to draw your own conclusion, and so hats off to them for doing that as well. The music by the Newton Brothers. Didn't recall too much there going on. Sound design as well. A lot of times I didn't have my volume turned up extremely loud, but I didn't hear a lot of it. I watch these shows with closed captions so I can make sure I don't mishear anything or at least be told when something's going on and I don't hear it, my old ass. Ultimately, I think what the show is trying to say is that we do build walls around ourselves, whether we're hiding the truth from someone we love. It's better to tell the truth and get it out in the open. In my experience, Some of those truths should have been kept quiet, and there is that part throughout the series where it's okay to keep a secret, and you don't want to tell them that. Are you sure? And so conflicting, messages there. But ultimately, in the end, everybody breaks their wall down, whether it's the family accepting Luke in his rehabilitation and giving their full support, or whether it's the personal walls they built up. The author, Steve, finally decided ghosts were real, and he didn't tell his wife that he had a vasectomy, but he was supposed to, because that was his truth. And it seemed like he was going to do the right thing by her, but we never saw him do it. We did see Shirley, after she got pissed at her husband for having a close moment with Theo. We didn't even witness a kiss or anything. She gave him shit for several episodes, and then all of a sudden we find out she's the bitch that slept behind his back with somebody, so she had to fess up to that. But we do see them together later on, so I guess he forgave her for that. Theo decided to quit wearing her gloves, so I guess she's just going to experience everything that everybody else, or perhaps fix herself where she doesn't have to do that, which is kind of building up a wall in the way. But at the same time, her wall was letting her girlfriend in. She had a love interest, and in the end, it seemed as though she was going to let the girl move in. They were going to live together, and they were going to be an open couple, and so that was good for Theo. And yeah, that's it. Nell died, and, and Luke stayed sober. So, yay, way to break the walls down, way to share your secrets, way to take care of your family, stay with your people. You have love for your family first, and everything else is just confetti, right? Okay, 6 out of 10, that's what I give it. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been my review and recap of The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix, Season 1. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos like this. I'm Joe. This has been Twin Perspective, and I will see you in the trees. Bye.